Now let's take a look at a situation where I want to make some sort of change or I want to modify the settings on a network adapter. Now there's two places I can do this. Now in a separate video that was entitled Adding a Network Adapter, I added a second network adapter to this Windows XP Professional virtual machine. Now if I go into the virtual machine, you can take a look in here at My Network Places and view network connections. I hope I didn't do that too fast for you. And you can see that I have two here, right? Well, if I come back out of this and go back out into Workstation, I can edit the virtual machine settings, and there are my two network adapters. And in reality, I could see both of these right here. So notice that's number 2 right there. So anyway, there's my second one. I can just click this and it takes me straight into there. And notice I am where I can modify this. Now it's NAT right now. I could take a look at some LAN segments. I could add one. I could click advanced and I could do some incoming transfer, outgoing transfer, packet loss, bandwidth, and that sort of thing. Notice this is where we get the MAC address, where we can see it or generate it. I'll talk about that later in a separate video. But for now, if I want to change this, I'm going to change this second one to a bridged network. And I'm just going to say OK. And then notice I've got one NAT and one bridged. And I am simply going to restart this machine. So I will restart the guest and let it come back up. And then keep in mind that that's the first part. That's where I went in on the virtual machine side and I made changes to the configuration of that particular network adapter. Now, once that change is made and everything's okay, my machine starts back up, at that point I can work with the adapters just like I can real physical adapters. I will go into XP and I can release and renew IP addresses, I can check IP addresses, I can assign static IP addresses if I would like. Everything from that point on is just like it always has been. I can use my IP config commands and so forth. And so I'll show you that in just a second. We're about to be back up and running again. And so notice XP Professional is now back up. And so let's jump out into full screen. It'll take it just a minute for full screen to hit. So I'll just kind of be impatient. Go to My Network Places, scroll back up and go to Network Connections. And it's going to take it just a minute. The virtual machine's doing a lot of thinking, and on power on is when all the magic happens on most of the networking. It'll generate MAC addresses. It will finish compiling that network and getting it all set up. So we will be patient here. Patience is not something that network administrators do very well, so we'll give them just a minute. Okay, and so here we are, and now you can tell that we have two network adapters, and if I right click on this one, the original one, and look at status, you can see 192.168.174, and if I right click on area 2 and hit status, you can see that I'm now assigned by DHCP 192.168.0.163. That I can tell you is the same segment as my host machine, and so we're set up properly here. Now I want you to notice something. I can come down here and go to a command prompt and type ipconfig, and I can see how they're set up. Notice my first local area connection is right here. I can see my default IP address. This is the one that's in NAT, and this is the one that is connected down to my host. And notice it got its address from Comcast, from their DHCP server, and this is where it got its address from. Okay, and so very easy to add this two network adapters to a machine. But like we've done in this video, go in and make changes to how this one is set up. Okay, and we actually changed the network type on that one, and VMware pulled it off beautifully. Notice we now have one that's NAT and one that's bridged. So that's how to go in and make changes. And again, you can do some pretty sophisticated networking things with the capabilities built into Workstation. So I would strongly encourage you to go out there and just kind of build some machines, play with them, work with your IP addresses, ping back and forth between multiple virtual machines, all that sort of thing. But get real comfortable with it. But hey, the sky's the limit with networking in the virtual world in Workstation.